post some videos. All right, let's see. Let's see what we got going on. What do we got going on? So this Crawford-Pacquiao fight, man. I don't know how much I believe that these guys are going to fight. I really don't. It's kind of counterintuitive for a man Manny's age to take on Terrence Crawford because Terrence Crawford, he ain't Keith Thurman and he ain't Errol Spence. He is neither an injury-prone fighter who's been quite inactive the last few years, and he's not a guy who's coming right off a car accident. You understand? There's no handicap. I was Goody Gatsby, Timmy, Tone, Ricardo, Courtney, Onyx, JKE was Goody. But yeah, I keep seeing these reports. You know, I saw the report about MTK Global helping to negotiate Crawford versus Pacquiao, but this is all coming from the top rank side of things. That's another reason I'm kind of skeptical. Everything you're hearing about that fight, you're not hearing from Manny Pacquiao. You're not hearing it from Sean Gibbons. You're not hearing it from Boo Boy Fernandez. You're not hearing it from Freddie Roach. Everything you're hearing about that particular fight is coming from the top rank side of things. It's not coming from both sides. It's really only just coming from one side. So I don't even know how much I believe that. But if the fight comes off, I'm pretty confident Crawford wins that fight. That's another part of the reason I don't know if it's going to happen. Because Terrence Crawford, I reiterate, is not an injury-prone fighter who's been quite inactive the last couple of years, like Keith Thurman. And he's not a guy who balloons in weight and flips Ferraris like Errol Spence. There are no handicaps. There's no angle with Terrence Crawford. You're fighting a primed fighter who in his spare time helps his comrades, his friends, prepare for their fight. Y'all seen the footage of Crawford recently. He's helping Jamel Herring prepare for his next fight. When he's not helping Jamel, he's helping Shakur. I was Goody Michael, that guy. Sean was good. Yeah, so I mean, if that fight does come off, I'm fairly confident Crawford wins that fight because he's got so many different ways of winning that fight. Michael Conks knew that. Y'all probably, I don't know if a lot of y'all know who Michael Conks is, but Michael Conks was the guy before Sean Gibbons was the guy. He was Manny's guy before Sean Gibbons became Manny's guy. And Michael Conks, Freddie Roach, they said it in plain English. They don't like that fight for Manny Pacquiao. They said that in plain English. Boo Boy Fernandez and Sean Gibbons, before Errol Spence and Sean Porter fought each other, they said that we got to protect Manny. And I've talked about it here on the channel a lot of times. I've posted the articles. I've posted the quotes. That Sean Gibbons and Boo Boy Fernandez both said in plain English, what does Manny Pacquiao get out of fighting the fighter, fighting the winner of that fight? What does he get? At this age, we have to protect him. That's what they said in plain English. None of these are anecdotes. So I find it hard to believe that after all of that has been said and everything has played out the way it's played out for years, that all of a sudden he wants to fight Terrence Crawford. I do find that hard to believe, but that's why. It's for those reasons. I'm not pulling that out of nowhere. I'm not pulling it out of the clear blue sky. If the fight comes off, I do have Terrence Crawford. I'm more confident that Crawford beats Pacquiao than I am that Bivol beats Beterbiev. Bivol Beterbiev 50-50 fight. Crawford versus Pacquiao, that's not a 50-50 fight to me at all. At all. At all. Yeah, I think Mikey's a good fight for Manny too at Paraguay. I think that's a good, and honestly, I still feel like he's more likely to get that fight. If things go back to normal and the Saudi Arabians put up that money, I feel like Manny's more likely to fight that guy than to fight Terrence Crawford. Hell, even here in America, we don't even got to, I bring up the Saudis because they got a lot of money. And they could get a, big licensing fee for that fight. But even here in America, that pay-per-view can make money. If you could sell a couple of pay-per-views with Broner, not that many, but if you can sell some, and you sold pay-per-views with Keith Thurman, I think between Manny's fans that he already has and all the Chicano fans that support Mikey Garcia, yeah, I think they could make some change with that fight, whether it's here in America or over there in Saudi Arabia. So that still looks like the likelier fight to me. No, I'm seeing all these reports, but like I just said, all of that stuff you seeing is only coming from one side. It's only coming from the top rank side. I have not seen Manny, Sean Gibbons, Boo Boy Fernandez, or Freddie Roach say anything recently, that is, about fighting Terrence Crawford. I haven't seen none of that. So I don't know what Bob talking about. I don't know what the people at Top Rank are talking about. I really don't. But I will say, like I said, if they make the fight, I got Crawford, and I got Crawford stopping Manny. And that's not. I'm so, but like I know Pacquiao has a lot of fans, but I'm not a wide-eyed optimist. I'm not enamored with anybody. All right. At the end of the day, it's a simple case of reality. All right. Manny's old. Manny's a southpaw, Crawford's a southpaw, so that cancels out the advantage that they both bring to a fight with an orthodox fighter. But Crawford's younger, Crawford's faster. Crawford can punch. I don't know why people act like he can't, but he's stopped every single welterweight he's fought so far. He's had 4 fights as a welterweight and stopped everyone he's fought, regardless of their size, age, or experience. He dismantled Jeff Horn. A lot of people don't want to give him credit for that. But Jeff Horn is a solid, young, strong fighter. I'm not telling you he Pernell Whitaker. I'm telling you he's a decent-sized welterweight who could take a beating. But he couldn't take the beating that Crawford was giving him. And he made it look easy. Made it look easy. Jose Benavidez, how many 6-foot welterweights you see running around the division? How many? Amir Khan, he actually outboxed Amir Khan and made Amir Khan quit because that's what Amir Khan did. He quit. He didn't want to be there. And before he made him quit, he was outboxing him. All of that extra I saw people saying that Amir Khan's hand speed was going to trouble Terrence Crawford. I'm like, yo, y'all dudes will say anything, man. Y'all dudes will say anything. Yeah, he's got a mean streak. I agree with you, Robin Rickson. He's got a mean streak. He's not just a very good boxer. He's not a safety first kind of fighter. He has a mean streak. He doesn't just want to win. He wants to beat you up. Shout out to Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford. When I see their happy faces smiling back at me. Terrence Crawford. That's the Terrence Crawford theme song, dog. One day he's gonna come out to that song. That's gonna be his ring walk song. Terrence Crawford. Oh man. But yeah, that's an easy fight for me to edge. Mid-range to inside is Manny Pacquiao's best bet, but Crawford is smart enough that he wouldn't fight him there until he knows he's got Manny hurt, until he's punished Manny. Then he'll fight him mid-range to inside. The way the fight would likely start off, it'd likely start off slow in the beginning, because what Crawford tends to do is he'll process the information. You understand? Feel the guy out the first 1-2 rounds. And by the 3rd round or the 4th round, you'll see him start to take action. With Manny, the focal point in the beginning would be using your height, using your reach to measure the distance with Manny. And, that's what he'd do. Terrence Crawford. Stop talking to be a... Yo, let me ask you a question, Shizbiz. Wasn't Manny Pacquiao rocked by lesser fighters? Grow up, bro. I don't like talking... You know what the thing is about being on these platforms? That you get a lot of people that you wouldn't normally speak to speaking to you. Because I'm like, yo, you telling me that Crawford was rocked by lesser fighters. Manny Pacquiao was rocked by Jeff Horn. Isn't Jeff Horn a lesser fighter than Terrence Crawford? Grow up, dog. This is boxing. This is not Fantasy Island. This is boxing. If you're going to tell me that Crawford was rocked by lesser fighters, so was Manny Pacquiao. I don't know, like, what the hell am I supposed? Oh, well, he was rocked by lesser fighters, so I guess that means he doesn't stand a chance. Do you realize that while you're telling me that, Freddie Roach is the one who was concerned about Manny fighting Crawford? Freddie Roach trains Manny Pacquiao. Do you train Manny Pacquiao? So if his own trainer is concerned, and he's saying it in plain English, I'm concerned. That's a tough fight. Stop telling me about Gamboa. Exactly, Sean. Yeah, exactly. Hustle, like, no, you're not saying that Manny got a chance. What you want me to say is Manny beats him because Manny Pacquiao. That's all you want me to say. You're not realistic, bro. All right? You're not a realistic person. This is not Keith Thurman and his inactivity and his injured elbow. It's not. This is not Keith Thurman. This is not Errol Spence who balloons in weight and flips Ferraris in his spare time. You're talking about a primed fighter who, in his spare time, helps other fighters prepare for their fights. That's what Terrence Crawford does. Right now, he's helping Jamel Herring. Right now. I think they sleeping on Jeff too, George, because they act like Manny didn't get roughed up by Jeff Horn. They want to. It's like it's always the same thing with Manny Pacquiao's fans, and I'm like, dog, he's a boxer like anybody's a boxer. He has a couple of losses on his resume. That doesn't mean he's a bad fighter. I don't even think Jeff really beat him, but I'm talking about the fight. What happened from round 1 to round 12? He got rocked by Jeff Horn, dog. Yes, he did. He got rocked. That was goody, Luis. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you got the Pacquiao team expressing concern, I don't want to hear nothing about what his fans are saying. His fans are just going to tell me something silly. I was goody intangible, was goody Mark. It's not complex. This is not Keith Thurman and his messed up elbow and all his months and years of inactivity. This is not Errol Spence and his drinking habits, ballooning in weight, and flipping Ferraris. This is not that kind of fighter. Possibly. I agree with you, Eparoqua. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I always felt that they were setting Manny up in that fight because his contract was about to be up, and what they were hoping to do was create a controversial situation to where he would stick around for one more fight or renew his contract so he could get Jeff Horn in the ring, because most people forget that Top Rank was co-promoting Jeff Horn at that time. They were co-promoting him with Duco Events. They figure, Manny loved rematches. 10 of Manny's fights are with the same 3 guys. Manny Pacquiao loves rematches. And what they probably figured is, what we'll do? Let's take it from him. Let's take it from him so he has to renew his contract with us. That's what I thought. Kavaliauskas wasn't ranked 11. He was ranked number 1 WBO, and he was ranked in the top 10 of the divisional rank standings. I already did mad videos on it. I mean, Johnny, you can lie about it on your channel, but you can't lie about it on mine. I post the information. Kavaliauskas was a top 10 welterweight for a while. It's not my fault y'all don't check the rankings. I do. Like, y'all was sleeping. I've been saying, the guy's a solid fighter. Don't read too much into that Ray Robinson fight. That was a bad style matchup. I've been saying this, dog. I've been saying that. Y'all think that the promotion makes the fighter better. No, it doesn't. Gervonta Davis gets a lot of promotion, and he sucks. Promotion ain't got shit to do with fighting ability. I'll tell you that. How much promotion look? Gervonta Davis gets more promotion than, say, Virgil Ortiz or Boots, but they have a higher ceiling than he does. They could go far. Those are the 2 guys that could cap off their careers at 160 pounds. Gervonta Davis, that dude is fish food. He hit his ceiling already. I don't believe that, LA. You know why I don't believe that? Because Lipinets got beat by Mikey Garcia at 140 pounds. I have seen nothing from Sergey Lipinets that shows me he would beat Mean Machine, because Mean Machine is a bigger version of Sergey Lipinets. He's a bigger version of him. Yeah, with Eric Bone. With Eric Bone. That was Eric Bone, right, Lawrence? We ain't got to talk about Pacquiao's rematches, Johnny. You're not going to make it make sense to me, bro. You're not. You brought up Kavaliauskas like I'm supposed to look up at like I'm supposed to look at Kavaliauskas as Joe Blow. If I got to look at Kavaliauskas as Joe Blow, how am I supposed to look at Jeff Horn for making Manny look 50 years old? He made Manny look like a 50-year-old man. Manny didn't look 50 against Lucas Matisse. He didn't look 50 against Adrian Broner. He didn't look 50 against Keith Thurman. But with Jeff motherfucking Horn, Manny looked like an old-ass man. He looked like an old-ass man that need to sit down. Now, you don't want to acknowledge that Kavaliauskas is a solid fighter. That's cool. You don't have to. But don't try to convince me that I should have that view. I already told y'all that guy could fight. I already told y'all that guy could fight. Gervonta Davis has a big ceiling ring. No, he doesn't. And I'm not going to argue what's obvious, because if I ask you who does he beat at 140 pounds, you're not going to be able to tell me. If he has such a high ceiling, can he do what Floyd did? Can Gervonta Davis become a 2 to 3 division champion? Can he become a 4 division champion? Can he become a 5 division champion? I'm going to tell you right now, Shakur Stevenson can do it. Devin Haney could do it. Ryan Garcia can do it. Davis' ceiling is 135. If you send him to 140, the only belts he stands a chance of winning are vacant belts. Because he ain't beating no Josh Taylor. He ain't beating no Jose Ramirez. Them dudes will kill him. They'll kill him. Hey, yo, I tell you guys, the boxer I've been watching on the come up at one. Chris Colbert is, yeah, I know Chris Colbert. He's a good fighter, good solid fighter. The dude don't got the dimensions. Like, that's why I'm like, when I say ceiling, right? I'm curious, what is it that people think I'm talking about? Mayweather became a 5 division champion. Manny Pacquiao became an 8 division champion. That's the ceiling. How high can you climb before you hit the wall, before you hit the ceiling? And what you trying to convince me of? That Davis has a high ceiling? Bro, he's at 135. Who is he going to win a belt from? Who? Who? This dude need 12 rounds to put away Yuriorkis Gamboa on one leg. So I'm like, come on, dog. Like, y'all got to snap out of it, man. Y'all still on some, yo, let me give him the benefit of the doubt. For what? If I don't trust you with my money against top-level opponents, then I don't need to give you the benefit of the doubt. And I don't trust Gervonta Davis against Devin Haney and anybody with a pulse. I don't trust him. I'm confident Devin Haney would embarrass that kid. I'm confident. He would embarrass that kid, bro. I'm gonna sit here giving him the benefit of the doubt for what? Manny will give Bud some problems. In the beginning, yeah. From round 3 and on, he gets butchered. Butchered. That's not a hard fight to call at all. He would. I'm telling you he was, sports fan. Not that they gonna fight, because Gervonta Davis don't fight people in his own weight class. That's why I don't understand how anybody could be high on him. When's the last time y'all saw him fight somebody that was actually solid, that they're in their, they're doing good. They're on their, they're on the up and up. Like, who have you been fighting, bro? 2 years of what? I'm telling you right now, Devin Haney will annihilate that man. But I'm saying most of these 135 pounders are moving up to 140 and beating Who's most, bro? Who are you talking about? You can't be talking about Pedraza because Pedraza's not a real 135 pounder. I would say Linares, but you know, I don't buy what Haney is selling, but you buy what Gervonta Davis is selling. I don't get that. Devin is true. Devin doesn't have Devin doesn't have a lot of substance in his resume yet. He doesn't. And the next video I'll upload after I finish this live, I'm gonna talk about that. Who said Davis gives Terrence Crawford problems? Who said? Yo, y'all motherfuckers gotta stop smoking, man. What? Yeah, I've been saying that for a while too, man. Devin Haney will beat the dog shit out of Gervonta Davis, bro. The dog shit. Like he would whoop his ass. Something terrible. Terrible. Yo, I don't know who said that, dog, but y'all motherfuckers gotta stop smoking, man. I never used the triangle theory for Jeff Horn, dog. I never used the triangle theory. I'm gonna put it to you this way, Johnny. You just like Manny, bro. You can't make it make sense. I've heard what you had to say. You can't make it make sense. I've heard what you had to say. I'm not using Jeff Horn as a triangle theory. Far from it. I don't need to use Jeff Horn as like really. You can't make that make sense, man. This is not a fight where the other fighter has a handicap. There is no ballooning in weight. There is no inactivity. There is no hiatus from boxing. There is no surgery. There is no Ferrari. There is no ballooning in weight between fights. There's no alcoholism. If Freddie Roach himself said that fight concerns me, if he said that, if Boo Boy Fernandez and Sean Gibbons are saying the kind of stuff they're saying about Errol Spence and Sean Porter, bro, they telling you what you need to know. You just don't want to listen to them. I'm not going to try to convince you. All I could do is tell you my reasoning. And I have absolutely nothing to worry about when it comes to Pacquiao and Crawford. Absolutely nothing. Manny goes to the hospital if he fights that guy. Hospital. It's not a pick'em fight. You want it to be a pick'em fight because you're a big Pacquiao fan, dog. I'm not going to argue the fandom of other people when I'm not talking about fandom. I'm not picking Crawford because I'm a fan of Crawford. I'm picking him because if they made that fight, I'll bet $50 Crawford stops this guy. $50 with anybody that want that smoke. $50. That's how I look at the fight. Can I trust you, Terrence, with my money? Now, if I can't trust you with my money, then I'll say it's a 50-50 fight. But if I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, that's easy money right there. Who want to bet on Manny? Go ahead and bet on Manny. It's gonna be Maypac all over again. And all people are gonna do is what they did during Maypac. Oh, it was boring. Bro, I didn't ask you if it was boring. I always told you it's gonna be boring. I always told y'all that. It's gonna be boring, but Mayweather's gonna win, and it's not going to be controversial. It's going to look simple. He's going to make it look easy. I won money off of that fight. So go ahead, man. Bet with your heart, man. Bet with your heart. If that makes you money, bet with your heart. I mean, you don't have to battle. You don't have to battle. I don't know what you've seen from Gervonta Davis that you're so convinced of him, but I'm not going to try to sell it to you. I can only tell you what I think. I cannot try to convince you. I can only tell you what I think. And I haven't seen jack shit from Gervonta Davis in the last 2.5 years. I haven't. At this point, I'm convinced that there's an upset waiting to happen to this dude. I'm convinced. This dude is waiting to be upset. Could it be Leo? Possibly. If Davis doesn't make the weight healthy, Leo could upset him. But there's a damn reason that you looking at a guy like Leo instead of fighting people in your own weight class. I'll tell you what I haven't seen from Devin Haney. I haven't seen Devin Haney struggle to make weight. I've seen Devin Haney fight people in his own weight class. Have you seen that the last 2.5 years from Davis? Where was Cuellar coming from? Where was Cuellar coming from? You still high off of Jose fucking Pedraza, battle. That's what you high on. And that's why, like, a lot of times, I don't feel like arguing shit. You are still high off of Jose Pedraza. That fucking fight was 3 years ago, bro. That was 3 years ago. Why the fuck you want me to be high off of that shit? Now, we gonna go one at a time because I don't feel like having to talk over anybody. I'm gonna let Intangible go on. Say your piece, Intangible.
Yeah, with Bud and Manny, I do think you're sort of exaggerating a little bit how sort of one-sided the fight will be. I think the fight is actually going to be kind of exciting. I think Bud is actually going to try to walk Manny down. I think he's going to get into the high guard and try to break him down because what I saw in the Keith Thurman fight was a Manny who was looking like the old Manny for the first 5 rounds and then gassed, and in my opinion at least, lost the majority of the rest of the rounds. And I think this fight will go the same. Except I think Bud will probably stop him late because he has better stamina than Keith. I think Manny will give him some issues in the first 3 or 4 rounds. I think his speed is going to be very hard for Terrence Crawford to time. But Terrence Crawford is probably going to commit to an attack. And I think he'll probably stick with it and probably get him out of there, I think, in rounds 11 or 12. Maybe it goes to a decision, but I do think Bud will win.
All right, I'll say I agree with you. First, let me say this. I don't know about one-sided because I didn't say that. Well, maybe I did, but this is what I view. The first 2 to 3 rounds, Manny's going to look formidable. After that, Crawford's going to tee off on him. Manny will have pockets of success in those moments where Crawford tries to pour it on thick mid-range to inside because Bud likes to trade there, and that's Manny's only chance. That's literally his only chance. Catching Crawford between the punches, mid-range, the inside, in the pocket. But outside of that, you know that Bud can slow this fight down. Use his arm, uses reach, uses height, uses jab, switch hit. You could walk Manny into a straight right hand at any time. You could walk him into one of those. Because if you fought the majority of the fight as a southpaw, like Manny's a southpaw, once you switch off the orthodox, that's going to throw Manny off his shit. There's a lot of ways I could see Bud winning this fight, but the reason I say I'm confident is because he's got more ways to win. So I'd put $50 on Bud, not just to win, to stop Manny, to stop him.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Manny I do think that Manny still has a lot of skills. I think his skills right now are actually comparable to Bud's, but the stamina, in my opinion, is going to catch up with him. And I think Bud can actually pour it on in the mid to late rounds without getting hit too badly, at least. And if he does get hit, I mean, Bud is not afraid to strike back. He's almost like a modern Eric Morales in that sense, where he's going to pour it onto you if you try to strike him, or if you do anyways.
That's true because he's the kind of fighter, and some people look at it as a strength. Some people look at it as a drawback. That Bud ain't just gonna let you hit him. If you hit him, he gonna want to get that. But that's what makes him exciting to me. That this is a guy with a very high ceiling, lots of boxing acumen, but he's still got that dog in him. That this motherfucker just hit me. I got to get that back. It's exciting. Terrence Crawford, sing it with me. Sing it with me, man. Terrence Crawford. When I see their happy faces. Terrence Crawford, man.
Yeah, I saw a comment by L-Dub in the comments. He said Pacquiao hasn't fought a southpaw since David Diaz, and David Diaz was trash. He was the worst champion at lightweight when Pacquiao fought him. That's going to be very interesting. Maybe Bud doesn't switch his stance enough because Pacquiao is going to probably be anticipating straight right or anticipating the orthodox stance a lot in the fight.
Well, Crawford primarily, even though he's a switch hitter, he primarily comes out as a southpaw. primarily. And against Manny,
Yeah.
I have no doubts that he would come out as a southpaw and fight the majority of the fight that way, accumulating the damage, so that after that, he can switch off the orthodox and start throwing right hands.
Yeah, I think so. I think he'll probably use the orthodox to try to pour it on, maybe. Once Pacquiao starts to sort of fade later on in the fight. That's what I see, though. But yeah, I got to get going and deal with some things real quickly. So it was nice talking to you briefly. See you later.
All right, no problem, Intangible. All right, we're going to do this one by one because, like I said, I don't want a bunch of people trying to talk over each other. We're trying to clean up these lives, make them professional, and brainwash you. That is what we're trying. No, I'm just playing with it. Oh, man. All right. How you see this thing, Mark? How you see this thing?
I think it's a very good fight. Nobody can question that this is the best fight in Terrence's career. No one can question
perhaps.
There is no perhaps. There is no perhaps. Ain't nobody.
Well, I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand. What do you mean? Like, do you mean that as far as like marquee value, money, and legacy, or do you mean as far as like the actual fight itself?
All.
Really?
Yeah.
I honestly think where Manny is right now, there's a lot of angling going on, and it's obvious. You know, Lucas Matisse was shot, right?
Okay.
He was shot. We all know Broner don't throw no goddamn punches. So it's like I knew, like you had to know, and if you didn't know, I don't know what fucking sport you've been watching, but you had to know Broner's gonna get mollywopped. Like, bro, you're not gonna do nothing out there except get beat up. The Keith Thurman fight was a harder fight. Like, admittedly, I didn't know, is it gonna be that Manny wants it more than Keith? You know, because Keith, at the end of the day, this dude don't really want to be there. He don't. Like, you can see it that he don't. And he's fragile. Like, they hit him and he winces. But at the same time, he does have a set of legs, and he could use that to walk Manny into punches, because these old guys, if they have anything that's debilitating, well, yeah, it is their legs. That's usually the first thing to go, is their legs. So maybe if Keith Thurman uses his legs and boxes a bit, he can win a ho-hum decision against Manny. But once again, there was angling. Why? Because we're talking about a guy who just went life or death with Josecito Lopez, right? And before that, he hadn't fucking fought in like 2 years. He's constantly getting injured in what is supposed to be his comeback, because I think, what was it, 2018 was supposed to be the get back year. He never got back. No, or was it 2017? I'm like, yo, dog, this dude is like Mr. Glass.
Okay. Break down what Crawford's done.
As far as
welter.
Welter, all right. Well, he stopped Jeff Horn. He stopped Amir Khan. Well, he made Amir Khan quit, I should say.
Okay. Can you break down each of those guys and what their circumstances were in each of those fights, just like you did with Manny?
Okay. Well, Jeff Horn was undefeated. He was a reigning champion.
We're not going to mention that there was reports circulating that he was puking in the lead up to the fight, draining and weight.
Fair enough. We're going to say that Jeff Horn was drained. I'll take it. There was Jose Benavidez, who had amassed a string of victories.
And had a bullet hole in his right leg.
Well, I was going to get to that, Mark. He got shot, yes. How long was it before he got shot?
I don't know, but he was definitely moving a little bit differently. You could see that.
But you don't remember how long it was? Was it?
I don't remember.
Okay, I remember. It was over a year, and he had about what was it, 2 fights? I think it was.
Against?
No, against. I mean, not against guys like Crawford, granted, but he was about as good as he was about as good as he was gonna be, because I don't remember Jose Benavidez being all that fleet of foot before or after he got shot.
I mean,
I saw him before he got shot. Everybody's acting like this guy was over there gliding around the ring.
Did he fight anybody? Did he fight anybody better than Josecito Lopez? Like, did Benavidez fight anybody better than?
No, but I mean, if we're using Crawford as okay, did he fight anybody the likes of a Crawford? No, of course he didn't.
I'm not using Crawford. We're proving proximity. Like, the thing with me is, like, we can tear down like the circumstance of anybody at any specific point. Yeah, Matisse shot. Broner doesn't throw hands. We can go and we can say, oh, Thurman had a very tough fight against Josecito Lopez and hadn't fought in this at the time. It still doesn't distinguish the fact that Keith Thurman was a unified champion. Then he got stripped of one belt, and then he was reigning champion. He beat Porter and Garcia.
What
Because
I'm what I'm
Garcia doesn't matter because he hasn't beat anybody at welterweight, and Porter's nearly, man.
okay, and what I'm characterizing when I do that is I'm not trying to disparage Manny's victories over those fighters. I'm giving you the reasons that I don't trust him. I still don't trust him. That Keith Thurman fight was a great fight, but I know that there was angling. I know that. Why didn't Boo Boy Fernandez and Sean Gibbons say what they said about Sean Porter and Errol Spence about Keith Thurman? Why didn't they say all of that? Why, if you guys felt that Manny was up for it with Keith, why is he not up for it with the winner of Porter versus Spence? Because what they said was in plain English. There's nothing complex about it. They said we have to protect Manny because of his age. They said that that's a high risk, low reward fight against the winner of that fight, and we don't get anything out of fighting the winner of that fight. Why didn't they take that stance with Keith Thurman?
I don't know. I mean,
okay, so what's the difference between those two fighters and Keith Thurman?
Which two fighters in Keith Thurman?
Errol Spence and Sean Porter.
What's the difference between
when they said what they said ahead of Spence versus Porter, what was the difference between those two fighters' circumstances and Keith Thurman's circumstances?
I don't remember.
I do.
Because I'm confused as to where you are at the moment.
All right, right now I'm about a week or 2 weeks ahead of Porter versus Spence. They hadn't actually fought yet. And
the difference in circumstance, I can't remember I don't remember.
All right, well, they hadn't fought yet, and they asked Boo Boy Fernandez and Sean Gibbons, Manny's new manager, still relatively new, how they felt about fighting the winner of that fight. And immediately they shot it down. They didn't like it. They said we have to protect Manny because of his age. They said that those are high risk, low rewards fights. And it's funny that they called it a high risk, low reward fight. Because wait a minute though, Keith beat Sean. So why would you view the winner of this fight as a high risk, low reward? But you were okay to fight Keith Thurman. What made that okay, and what makes this not okay?
Maybe because at the time Keith was a champion and Sean wasn't. Maybe also because at the time Keith Thurman was doing more in tickets than Sean. I don't know. So Keith actually had a higher reward rate. But that doesn't mean he has a lower risk rate.
No, but see, you're off because at that time Sean Porter was the WBC champion. Errol Spence was the IBF champion.
Oh, so this was after Keith had dead.
Yes.
Wait.
This was after Manny fought Keith. This was after Manny fought Keith, but before Errol and Sean fought each other. This was like a week or two ahead of their fight. And they asked,
this was while Keith was inactive.
Let me check. Let me see when. Let me get the.
I'm just making sure I get you because I just want to follow your timeline. Because I have to follow your reasoning.
Okay, let me follow. Let me look at this. Let me see exactly when was it that Manny fought Keith and why they were okay to fight Keith, but they're not okay to fight the winner of that fight. Okay, that was 7/20. All right, yeah, and this is definitely before that was what? That was July of 2019. And Spence and Porter, that was in the fall. Yep, that was in the fall. Going into the fall, September. So yeah, when Sean Gibbons and Boo Boy Fernandez made these comments, it was about a week or 2 weeks ahead of that fight. That was in September. That was after Manny fought Keith, but before those two guys fought each other. So
what comments did they make?
They said that's a high risk, low reward fight. We don't get anything out of fighting the winner of that fight, and we have to protect Manny now due to his age.
Okay. Cool. And
why didn't they take that stance with Keith Thurman? What was the difference between those fighters and Keith Thurman?
I think the difference was Manny was coming off of a hard fight after Thurman. and he hadn't been.
So you don't. So you think that they viewed Keith Thurman as an equal risk to Manny as those guys? That's what you're saying.
I don't know. I can't
You don't
predict
think,
that unless they say
okay,
that.
so
No,
I'm gonna
unless
ask
they were
you.
to say it, I can't predict it because there's a lot of different stances I could take on it. I could
Okay,
take
so
one view or the other.
okay, so I'm gonna ask you this: what is your stance? Do you think that they? Do you specifically you? Do you think that they viewed Keith Thurman as being on the same playing field as those two guys?
I think they may have done with Porter, not so much Spence. I think they were under the assumption that Spence was going to get the victory, and the question was the winner of Porter versus Spence. So I think they were talking about Spence. I think they were rating Spence above him. I don't think specifically it's Porter.
And you don't think the Lopez performance had anything to do with their reasoning?
I think it could do. I think it could do, but also they could have looked at Porter as also being somebody who was coming off of a performance that didn't look too good after most people thought he lost to Ugas.
Okay, so I'll impart this word. It's pretty obvious that, at least to me, well, Keith Thurman is a fighter who had not fought roughly he had one fight in 3 years or one fight in 2 years, and the one fight that he did have wasn't against an upper echelon fighter. It wasn't. It was against Josecito Lopez. He looked like shit. He's injury prone. Can't take it to the body. Right guy for Manny to fight. Makes sense. That was my reasoning as to why they chose to fight him and why they were averse to fighting either Errol Spence or Sean Porter, because those two fighters, unlike Keith Thurman, they've been active. They're champions like Keith Thurman was a champion, but they were active and they're not injury prone. He is.
Okay.
Now, if you don't think, because that's what it sounds like, or maybe you're playing devil's advocate. If you
Not
don't
playing
think,
anything.
okay, cool, whatever. If you don't think any of that mattered, that's fine, but that is my reasoning. There's a difference between where Keith Thurman was at that time and where they were at that time. They were active. He wasn't. They didn't. Yeah.
I get that. Okay, I get that. Now, I'm just going to play this small thing. Why would they be interested in taking the Terrence Crawford fight right now?
I don't know that they
If
are.
that was if they take it and they weren't interested in Spence and Porter, does that mean they view Crawford the same way they view Keith Thurman?
I don't know
Is
that they're.
that what that would mean? Do they think he's weak? Because that's what that would stipulate.
Perhaps.
If
If they did, let's say they took that fight now, I'd look at that as there has to be a reason that you didn't want him when you were on the same side with him, and that's pretty much what all your people said, but now you want him. What happened now that didn't happen before? Well, he fought Kavaliauskas and he got dropped. I don't think they'd read too much into that, though. They're not idiots, and that's why I'm not convinced that he is fighting Crawford. I'm not convinced. Right now, the only person I see saying that is Bob Arum. But that's not the first time I saw Bob Arum saying that.
okay,
Ultimately, when he said it before, when he was saying that before, the fight didn't happen. And he's been saying that. So he's saying it now. But all right, Manny's name is tied to Spence. It's tied to Mikey Garcia. You're tying it, Bob, to Terrence Crawford. But I haven't seen Sean Gibbons say any of the shit you saying. I haven't seen Boo Boy Fernandez or Manny Pacquiao or Freddie Roach saying any of the shit you saying. So I don't know that what you're saying is true.
Fair enough. You know, what rating? Where was Keith Thurman rated in the rankings?
That's a really good question. I know that BoxRec stopped rating him. That much I know because it had been 2 years, and I forgot what their statute.
What year? What month was it that they fought? What was the date? Was it June 7th?
July. It was July. Let me go back. It was July. July 20th.
Yeah.
Yeah, July 20th.
Right. Keith was ranked number 4 on TBRB at the time. Porter, Crawford, and Spence all ranked above him. The only reason he was ranked that way, I think, admittedly, was just inactivity. Because before that, he was ranked number 1 at welterweight before he went into his inactivity.
Briefly, yeah. After he unified, right after he unified. Well, actually, no, I don't. I don't know if he was.
He was ranked number 1
For how long?
And I think it was for like 4, 5, 6 months, and then like he hadn't fought. I think it was up until the time like the WBC made him a recess champion or something, or Emeritus or whatever the fuck they did.
Let me think. When Keith Thurman unified, who had the WBO? Let me see that. When Keith Thurman unified, who had the WBO title? Because I don't remember him being number one, and if he was, it wasn't for very long. Especially not if that's the same time that Manny had the WBO, because Tim Bradley was ranked ahead of I think he was ranked ahead of Keith Thurman at that time.
When Keith beat Danny would have been what, 2017, 2018?
2016.
When he beat Danny?
Yeah, that was 2016.
So when did he get unified? Was it on the Danny fight or the Sean fight?
Okay, so let me see. Tim fought Manny, 2016, and then Manny
fought 2017. It was 2017 that he beat Danny.
Okay, 2017, all right. And in 2017, I think Manny had the WBO title. Yeah, so he couldn't have been number one. No way. No way. Manny had the WBO. He beat fucking Jesse Morgan.
Yeah, when Manny lost to Jeff Horn. When Manny lost to Jeff Horn, Keith Thurman went above him.
Okay, let me see. Hold on. He loses. Yeah, all right. So Manny loses the Horn. Keith is still inactive, but he could have gone above him.
He did go above him. Keith was number 2. He went to number 1. Manny Pacquiao dropped down to number... I think he went to number 2, and Horn actually went to number 3, which was weird. That I remember Manny being above Horn, even though he lost. At least I think I remember that.
Be that as it may, there's got to be a reason that they feel okay to fight Keith Thurman after a shit performance, but they didn't feel okay to fight the winner of that fight, even though we don't even know who the winner of that fight is. Or was going to be.
Well, like I said, they could have looked and thought that the winner of that fight was going to be Errol Spence, like most major betting publicists did.
They could have, but didn't they just see Errol Spence fail to put away Mikey Garcia? They could have. I mean, they
could have looked at him as failing to put him away, or they could have looked at him as shutting him out completely, comprehensively, without any effort.
I guess.
Look, you can look at it like a knockout. Like when you go into like the world echelon level of boxing, they don't care if a dude's knocking you out or beating you 12 rounds to zip on points. They do not give a fuck. A win's a win. It ain't about like the fans' point of view.
I'm gonna ask you a simple question. Do you think that they viewed Keith Thurman as being in the same condition as the winner of that fight, which presumably would have been Spence?
I don't think they looked at Keith Thurman as being as good as Errol Spence. No, I don't think they did. I don't think the Porter thing would be. I can't assume that they thought Porter was going to win.
Do you think that there was any angling that there's a reason that perhaps Keith Thurman might seem like a more attractive option than the winner of that fight?
Well, yeah, there's definitely a more attraction option for sure. Definitely more. Well, not more than. I'll say this: more attractive than Porter in every sense, because one, Keith brings more money than Porter.
Yeah.
And 2, they don't know which one's more dangerous, so go with either. Right? With Spence brings more money than Thurman, but Spence is way harder. Well, I think everybody would have thought that. Spence was deemed the most dangerous guy outside of Crawford.
Well, this is my perspective, right? This is my perspective, and this was my reasoning. They know that Keith hasn't fought in a long time. They know what we don't know about Keith Thurman, which I talked to some people and told me some rumors. I didn't believe them, and I ended up being right. But something that they said stuck with me. Keith is kind of done. That's what I was told by somebody on the inside. That's what they told me. I didn't believe that. I'm like, oh, he's not going to retire. And this was before he fought, man. Well, he's not going to retire, though. Even if he is injury prone, he'll just cash out. My perspective is they knew that Keith is falling apart, and they also know that Keith's been inactive for a long time. They saw what he looked like with Josecito Lopez. They know he can't take it to the body. So that made him more attractive than the winner of that fight.
Can I ask something, though? Was Keith a proven fighter or not?
Yeah, a long time ago.
A long time ago?
Okay, it's the same logic I used to pick Ugas to beat Figueroa. It's the same logic. Figueroa looked all right against Guerrero. He looked all right, but he was gone for a while. They put you in there with Ugas. Okay, well, you were proven. You know, it's not that you have a bad resume, but we're talking about this fight. Do I
Yeah,
think
but this proven on a completely different scale. We're talking proven on world level and proven.
Okay, but what context are you using for proven? Because
Well, I mean,
Omar Figueroa was proven to a degree, but at the end of the day, that was a while before you fought Ugas. Ultimately, I picked Ugas. Why? He's on a hot streak.
Okay.
You're not. You've been an
okay, okay. It had
active.
nothing to do with the fact that Omar Figueroa is a career lightweight.
Well, hadn't he fought at welterweight before fighting Ugas?
Once, maybe twice. Once or twice. Yeah, it's still a career lightweight. I mean, if fucking Gamboa, when he moved up to Crawford, yeah, when he fought Crawford, he had fought a lot more of feather and super feather.
Okay, fair enough.
It's the same thing that Lomachenko gets for fighting Nicholas Walters. Nicholas Walters moved up to 130 and debuted against Loma. His first fight at 130 was against Loma. Same fucking synopsis. Come on.
Not really, because what I'm telling you is the same hierarchy of thought that I used for Omar Figueroa and Ugas is the same hierarchy of thought I was thinking for Thurman and Pacquiao. You haven't fought in a while. Whatever you did before was a while ago. Your current condition is what makes you an attractive opponent, not what you did before. You're not the guy that beat Danny. You're not the guy that fought Sean Porter. Is he?
Who?
Keith Thurman.
I don't know.
Oh, so you don't? So you still think he's basically the same guy he was 3 years ago?
I've no idea. I've no way of being able to prove it. He had a tough fight. Keith had tough fights during his career and been caught in many different situations where he's been hurt in the past, just like in the Josecito fight. It's happened before. And that still doesn't change the fact that him and Manny Pacquiao was a very tough fight. I don't know if Sean Porter could beat him because I haven't seen Sean Porter beat anybody who proves that he can beat or even go close with Manny Pacquiao.
Okay. Well, what we're assessing here isn't a fact. I asked you, what do you think? Do you think, would you bet on Keith Thurman?
To be who?
Sean Porter in a rematch, if that were his next fight.
I wouldn't bet on either guy.
Okay, you would. All right. Would you bet on Keith Thurman to be Terrence Crawford?
No.
Would you bet on Keith Thurman to beat Yordanis Ugas?
I don't know.
Danny Garcia?
Yes.
You think he could beat Danny?
Yeah, I think he beats Danny.
I disagree.
I think he beats Danny every time he fights. I think Danny's not active enough with his shots. And he'll lose on points.
Okay, well, all right. Well, bear in mind, we're assessing what you think. These are anecdotes. We're not assessing matters of fact because what we're assessing is the frame of mind we were in when we looked at those fights. My frame of mind was Keith Thurman, it's over for him. This guy's not going to, unless a belt goes vacant, you're not winning a belt from anybody. It's over for you. You're injury prone. You've been gone too long. You're regressing, and it's open season on you. So you're going to navigate carefully. You're looking to cash out. That's what you're looking to do. That's my hierarchy of thought. And that's true also, Ross Klott. Danny never did beat a legit welterweight. But the Keith Thurman that's here today is not a bankable fighter. Not unless he's fighting C and D level competition. He's not a bankable fighter. I can't trust you. I don't trust you. I bet on you.
Might not bet on him. I don't really bet on Porter against A-level competition either because Porter is the perfect case of the nearly man, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. But I've always looked at Porter as a solid, and I don't consider this an insult because for every 50 Bs or B pluses, there's 100 Cs and 200 Ds and 400 Es. Porter is a solid B plus fighter in the sense that he's missing that extra gear to hit to win the big fight. That's what he's missing. But he is bankable. You know what he's coming to do, and he's going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's all well and good. I'm just saying, I think that this is the hardest fight for Crawford in his career. I do. I mean, I know you don't. I know who I'm picking to win the fight. I agree with quite a few of the sentiments. I still think that Keith Thurman is, in the state he was against Manny, would probably be better than anybody I've seen in there with Crawford at welterweight.
I disagree.
I'm sure you do.
You trust Keith more than I do, and that's what we're assessing. Trust. You trust him for.
That's what you're assessing.
Yes, that's what I said.
No, you said we're. That's what you're assessing. I have no trust in any of these fighters that Crawford's fighting either. Like, I've no trust in fucking Jose Benavidez. I had no trust in Jeff Horn when he was fucking drained and throwing up in camp. I had absolutely no fucking trust, no trust whatsoever in Igis Kavalyauskas because he's got a gas tank problem. A massive one.
I trust Igis to beat
And
Thurman.
as for Amir Khan, has anybody ever trusted Amir? I
No,
wouldn't trust him with my Skype account, let alone in the ring.
I trust, based on the Keith Thurman that I saw in there against Josecito Lopez, forget Manny, because you probably got out of bed for Manny as best as you could, and you still lost. You were asleep at the wheel with Josecito Lopez. There's a good chance you'd be asleep at the wheel with a Jeff Horn. There's a good chance you'd be asleep at the wheel with a Kavalyauskas because they're not marquee fighters. So you're thinking it's a gimme fight the way you thought Lopez was a gimme fight. And you almost got yourself knocked out.
Completely speculation until any of them fight each other.
Well, this is what we're assessing, hierarchy of thought. These aren't matters of fact. He never fought Kavalyauskas. He never fought Jeff Horn. So just the fact of me using those opponent options indicates
I think he beats them. I think he beats them both.
Anecdotes.
I think he beats them both. You don't.
I don't. Not based on what I saw.
Based on what I saw, even with Josecito, I think he could beat Jeff Horn. At 147, I do. Because I don't think Jeff Horn could make 147 and not die.
I think the Jeff Horn that fought Manny would probably beat the Keith Thurman that fought Lopez. That's my frame.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the Jeff Horn who fought against Manny. We're talking about the Jeff Horn who fought Crawford.
Okay, well, I'd pick that Horn to beat Thurman. I don't trust Thurman, and that's what we were assessing. Why don't you trust him? That's why.
You think that Jeff Horn beats Keith Thurman?
Oh, yeah.
The Jeff Horn in the ring with Crawford that night.
Yeah.
The Jeff Horn who got absolutely obliterated and looked as slow as can be and looked like he was dehydrated beyond compare. The same Jeff Horn.
Yeah, I'd pick that Jeff Horn to beat Crawford. I mean, Thurman, because Thurman's not a switch hitter, is he? Is he a switch hitter?
No, he's not. I mean, the switch hitting is all well and good, but hold on. You'd pick that one to beat Josecito Lopez, but based on the last performance of Keith Thurman didn't fight too badly. I mean, he did pretty good in that ring with Manny, to my recollection.
That depends on how you look at Manny in the state that he's in. You're looking. I mean, it sounds to me, based on what you're saying, that you don't think that angling has anything to do with why Manny's winning these fights. That's what it sounds like.
No, I mean, I don't really give a fuck about angling. I mean, the whole idea of angling to me has always been the idea of someone who wants to skew an opinion.
Well, it's not. Well, okay.
Because that plays proximity into the word angling itself. Because that's an angle, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Exactly.
So your point is that you don't look at angling as being a factor in how to assess a match.
I think it could be. If you completely 100% have 100% think, yes, this is exactly how it is. Yes. That Keith Thurman is somehow because he fought poorly with Josecito, right? He had a tough fight with Josecito. Keith Thurman, he's shot. Meanwhile, Sean Porter, he's fantastic, even though he just lost to a slightly unproven at the time, well, not lost, but a very tough fight, arguably lost, with a quite slightly unproven Rodina Ugas.
That depends on how you looked at Ugas. I didn't actually think he lost that fight.
You didn't think he lost it?
I didn't feel Porter lost that fight. I thought it was close, but I didn't think he lost. Some people do, and I acknowledge that there are those people, but I wasn't one of them.
Well, some people did, some people didn't, and that's all angling.
But what are we assessing? My hierarchy of thought, or at least that's what I'm doing. If you're not doing that, well, that's what I came on here doing. My hierarchy of thought was Keith Thurman is not the fighter that he was in 2017.
Okay, you're entitled to that.
And Manny beating that fighter who's not who he was in 2017 doesn't tell me that he's going to give Crawford a hard fight.
That's fair. I mean, also at the same point, Crawford beating Igis Kavalyauskas or Jose Benavidez or any of the guys that he's beating at welterweight, including the Horn that was in the ring that night, doesn't give me any proximity to know that he's able or capable of beating a Manny Pacquiao.
That's fair enough.
Because based on the idea of just the eye test, which is what you're doing, and based on proven proximity of the actual overall resumes and the resumes over the last 3 years, it would kind of differentiate towards Manny in favor on pure paper. even though I don't pick Manny to win the fight. It's
Then why
still,
do
that's
you-
also a form of angling.
Okay, so
Angling
why,
can be done on paper, through the eye tester, both, to be
okay,
able
so
to
why
assess.
do you? So if none of this has anything to do with why you're picking Crawford to win the fight, why are you picking Crawford to win the fight?
Because of I believe in the oldest saying in boxing. First of all, Crawford, he's an elite fighter. I believe Manny is an elite fighter. I also believe styles make fights. I think Crawford's the wrong style for him. That's my reasoning.
That's an anecdote.
It's an anecdote, just like everything else that we've been talking about is an
Well, I mean,
anecdote and
if then what
purely
distinguishes you?
speculation.
But then what distinguishes
Anything
your
to do with a
anecdote?
prediction, you cannot give a factual prediction.
Oh no, I never said I was going to. I used an
All
anecdote.
predictions are anecdotal.
And I never said I did. I was using an anecdote. Then you questioned my anecdote, but you're using an anecdote. It's just a different
I
anecdote.
didn't even question your anecdote. I wondered what your anecdote was, which is different.
And then you proceeded to pick apart the anecdote, even though you're using an anecdote.
Didn't pick it apart.
If-
Neutralized.
Now this is
Neutralized.
the thing. Now this is the thing. Now this is the thing. If we're both using anecdotes to say the exact same thing, that Crawford would win that fight, what is the point in picking apart anecdotes?
What is the point of it? I don't
Yeah,
know.
what's the
I think neither anecdote really matters. I mean, everybody has their own way of looking at things.
Well,
I mean,
my
you're
way.
you're currently picking apart me using an
No,
anecdote.
I'm
No,
not
no, 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 no. Hold on.
questioning why you're picking Crawford to win the fight. If you tell me this is what I think and this is why,
Yeah, I think styles make fights. I do. I've always thought that.
I also think that styles make fights, but better still, when I say that anecdotally, of course, even though it's not an anecdote that he looked the way that he looked, but better still, you haven't fought in a long time. Now,
It's an anecdote the way that he looked based off of opposition though, and your idea of how
it's
good
not an,
each
it
member of
didn't- all
opposition
right,
is.
was it an anecdote? Was it an anecdote that Keith Thurman was out of action for roughly 2 years? Was that an anecdote?
Absolutely. No, that's not an anecdote, that's a fact.
Okay. Now, was it an anecdote that he was injured 2 times in preparation for
Nope.
his comeback? And
That's not an anecdote at all. No.
So when I say that this fighter's physical condition isn't what it was in 2017, is that an anecdote?
It could be. Because he had a fight in the meantime and he could have gotten himself back into the same shape. We don't know that. Factually.
Is Josecito Lopez the same kind of echelon fighter that Danny Garcia or Sean Porter was when he fought them?
No.
He's not, right?
No, he's not.
Now, what's your take?
Not in my opinion.
Not in my
Because
opinion.
I don't
Not
know.
my opinion either.
I actually don't know if Danny Garcia could be Josecito Lopez.
Well, I don't know either, but here's what I do know. Here is what I do know. When Keith Thurman fought those fighters, those were top 10 welterweights. When he fought Josecito Lopez, that was not a top 10 welterweight. So you've actually fought upper echelon fighters before and beat them. And you actually look better with those guys than you looked with Lopez. You did.
That's true.
So it's been 2 years since you had a fight. I know you've had some injuries. You go in there for what is a tune-up fight. That's what that was. That was a gimme fight. That was a tune-up fight. And you don't look the same. Now you challenge a 40. What was he? 40? I think he was 40 when you were challenged.
39, 40, something like that.
You were challenged by a Manny Pacquiao who's 39 years old or 40 years old or whatever. You can't do to him what Jeff Horn did. You're not bullying him around. You're not walking him down. You're not roughing him up. You're not doing none of those things. You're the same guy who I just saw languish with Josecito Lopez, who is not a top 10 welterweight. And that's not an anecdote.
Mm-hmm.
So that indicates to me that no, you're not the guy from 2017. That guy, he's gone.
The guy from 2017. Does that still mean that he's poor? Does that
Yeah,
still mean that he's not better? No, hold on. Does that still?
The words poor?
No. You didn't use the words poor. Maybe you didn't even insinuate it. But does that mean that Does that mean that suddenly everybody else who's fighting is suddenly better than this guy?
They could
Not
be.
necessarily. They could be, but purely anecdotal, and that's where the anecdotes come in. When you get when you get beyond
a separate discussion, Mark. You are. You're comparing him to other. Oh, I'm not talking about other people. I'm talking about fights that he had, not fights that he didn't have. or fights that he's going to have.
Okay, yeah, okay, fine. So he had one fight before Manny where he didn't look great, and the two beforehand.
We were talking about 2 fights. Well, at least I was. I was talking about 2 fights, and I was looking at
which 2 fights are you looking at? Go ahead.
Lopez and Pacquiao.
Okay.
Was I talking about somebody else, or was I talking about Lopez and Pacquiao?
Okay, just Lopez and Pacquiao. So that's 1 fight, not 2.
That's 2 fights. I was talking about
Lopez and Pacquiao. Okay.
And Pacquiao. That's 2 fights.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm looking at the factors in those 2 fights in comparison with how you were before you fought those 2 fighters, what the differences are based on the facts, some anecdotes, but the facts. You've been inactive for roughly 2 years. You've sustained several injuries, not even in fights, in camp. You come back, you don't look all right, and this is against what? A guy who's not in the top 10? Was Lopez even in the top 15?
No, I don't know. I don't know where he was ranked.
Well, I know he wasn't in the top. What I know that I can look up at any time in the day is that no, that wasn't a top 10 fighter, let alone a top 5 fighter like the kind of guys you used to fight. You look better with top 5 guys than you look against this guy. Why do you look this way against this guy? Could it be
how many top 5 fighters did he fight in his entire career? 2.
Who? Keith Thurman?
Yeah, 2.
Oh yeah, he probably only fought 2, but he still looked better against those 2 guys than he did against this guy. And this guy's not a top 5 fighter or a top 10 fighter. There has to be a reason for it.
I mean, I think you look better. Hold on.
So hold on. I'm going to ask a question. Is it so far-fetched, so outlandish? Well, I'm going out on a limb by saying that the 2 years of inactivity and the injuries, that explains why he looked the way that he looked. Is that crazy?
It's not crazy.
It's far-fetched?
It's not far-fetched.
Because that's the point.
I mean, okay. So if it's not completely crazy and it's not far-fetched, it still doesn't mean anything.
Well, I didn't say it did. I'm describing my hierarchy of thought. You've been inactive for 2 years. You've been injured several times when you were supposed to be coming back.
Okay, so that's the trust level. So you're going to repeat the same thing you've said 6 times.
Well, yeah, because
can I say what I've been wanting to say for the last 4 minutes, which I've been interrupted on each time? Okay. So fair, inactive, yeah, injured, yeah, had a tough fight with Josecito Lopez, yeah, performed well against Manny. How good's Manny? We don't know. He fought Broner. He fought against who else? Matisse, who was best at 140 and was admittedly shot by most people. Yeah, concede every last one of those points. I still don't know, in my opinion, on my hierarchy of thought, if Crawford has beaten anybody that proves he can beat any of those guys. I don't know. Well, I do the old school method in my hierarchy of thought, in my stupid anecdote, that styles make fights and age is a proximity, and I do believe Manny has slowed down, and I thought he looked slower in the Keith Thurman fight. Absolutely. And I also think it's kind of interesting that, him and that he's angling for the Manny fight, because maybe he doesn't think Manny looks as good, and Manny would be coming up off of a longer layoff than he is.
All right, give me a second. All right, well, based on that, you're basically saying you're picking the same guy that I am for a different reason. Well, not even a different reason, because I bring up Manny's age all the time.
I mean, I'm not here to debate. I wasn't even here to debate. I wasn't expecting to have a debate that Manny Pacquiao is or not arguably the best opponent.
Well, it wasn't supposed to be a debate because I'm describing my hierarchy of thought. Thus, there's no debate to be had. I'm not trying to convince anyone to think what I think. I'm telling you what I think and why.
You spent a long time doing it. Spent a long time trying to convince.
I'm trying to convince you, Mark. Like, you're going to play this back and you're going to hear the same thing I hear. I'm not trying to convince you to think what I think. I told you what I think and how I got there. And you chose to rebuttal those points even though it's not a debate.
Okay. All I know is that I'm looking forward to the fight. I think it's a good fight. If they make it, I'll be looking forward to it.
Like I said, I'm not convinced that fight happens. It's not that I'm not talking about anybody being afraid of anybody. I just
absolutely.
I haven't heard anybody on Manny's side confirm anything that Bob is saying.
And look, anecdotal or not, opinions or not, I am looking forward to, if it happens, the fight taking place between Terence Crawford and the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, according to Ring IQ,
Yeah.
which that's fact, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You
that's
have him
fact.
pound for pound number one.
It's
So when I come in and I say that this is the best opponent for Crawford in his career up to date, and you say I don't know about that, but you have the guy ranked pound for pound number one, that's kind of a contradiction. But
that's not really a
now I know what you're gonna say, no, because I base it off of entire career and stuff like that. But that's all.
Mark, it sounds a lot like you're trying to have a debate.
No, I'm not really. I'm just trying to create a good discussion
Yeah,
for
it kind
people.
of does. It's not a discussion
Oh,
when I'm describing my hierarchy of thought to you. I'm telling you, okay, well, this is what I think and why. And you presume to try and poke holes in it when it's not a debate, dog. If you think something else, think something else. But I'm telling you why I think what I think. So a rebuttal isn't actually required, but that's
but
what you're
but
doing.
I was also trying to explain my hierarchy of thought too. Is that not fair?
Not really. You spent more time on what I think than what you think.
Well, that's because my point of view is different, and then I went to try and explain, and each time I did, I think my hierarchy of thought isn't purely down to just how someone looked in the ring on one specific or any given night, because I've seen fighters have poor performances.
Well, neither is mine,
Many.
but you were talking about specific points that I made. So we stayed on those specific
Oh,
points
we
because you
did.
kept trying to rebuttal them.
I didn't try to rebuttal any of them.
You didn't. So when I said that I didn't think Keith Thurman looked too good in his last fight, this, that, and the other, and you started talking about, well, how Crawford looked and his quality of competition, like, what does that have to do with anything I just said? I don't like the way Keith looked in the
Okay.
Lopez fight because he hadn't fought in 2 years. He's injury prone. It doesn't look encouraging.
Because that goes into my
I would
hierarchy
not
of thought.
I would not bet on that guy. And then we start
Okay.
talking, well, what about how Crawford looked and who were those?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we weren't really talking about
Okay. And that goes into my hierarchy of thought on who I'm picking to win the fight overall, anyway. Not just one-sided. Because when I came in, the entire time, all I heard is the reasons Manny Pacquiao lost is because of Keith Thurman. It had nothing to do with Terence Crawford and what he represents in the ring.
No, I brought up Keith Thurman because I brought up his condition and how I'm not sure if I should trust Manny, given that you beat Keith, but I don't trust Keith's condition, so I don't know what to make of you beating him. Anecdotally, of course, because if I stick to the facts, Keith Thurman was a champion. It's not hard to distinguish facts from anecdotes. But anecdotally, which is what we were talking about from the very beginning, I don't know if I should trust Keith Thurman. What was his condition when Manny fought him? I don't know if I should trust that Manny beat Lucas Matisse. What was his condition when Manny beat him? I don't know if I should trust that Manny beat Adrian Broner because what was his condition when Manny beat him?
So me wondering on your hierarchy of thought when I started asking about the other situation with Crawford wasn't to poke holes in it. It was to try and understand fully what your hierarchy of thought is, not from one just point of view on one fighter, but both, so I can get a full idea on where you're coming from on the assessment.
It sounded a lot like a debate.
That's probably because you thought it was, but no, I was just wondering what your hierarchy of thought is. Not just from one side, but both. Is that not a fair thing to do when you're assessing two guys in the ring to fight one another, not just one guy in the ring?
I mean, it is, but if you've already decided on your end that age is a factor, which I bring up all the time, that yes, age is also a factor, size is also a factor. I talked about how, Crawford's a southpaw, so two southpaws, they're going to cancel out that advantage that they usually have over orthodox fighters. We mulled over more, at least before you came on. I talked about more than just, okay, well, he fought this guy, that guy, and that guy, but you focused on that. When
I didn't hear that part.
I covered a lot of areas.
I didn't hear that part.
You were already in the comments.
Yeah, with my sound muted. Yeah, but genuinely.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know you had your sound muted. All I know is that we covered a lot of bases, and it wasn't just about who they fought. It's also how they fight and what they do.
Okay. So me wondering what position Crawford's been in, who he's fought as well, and what level they are, and if the hierarchy of thought is consistent on all points of view. That's all I was wondering. That's all. It wasn't me trying to debate. It's just looking for the same amount of consistency all across the board and asking questions on it. That's all I'm here to do. Create discussion, not debate.
Well, like I said, it felt like a debate. Like, well, okay, if this is debatable, if this hierarchy of thought is debatable, I should say, then the assumption that one would make is that, okay, you must have Manny or something. I'm not saying that you do because I knew that you didn't, but it seemed like I don't know, playing devil's advocate. That's what it seemed like.
Okay. Is that because I didn't come in siding with your side of opinion?
No, it was because we were going over things that focused on one particular aspect. All we were focusing was on resumes when I had already discussed that it's not just the resumes, it's also how they fight.
Mm-hmm.
And their age and their size and what Crawford tends to do in the middle of a fight. He'll come out as a southpaw fighter, then switch off to orthodox in the mid to late rounds. Throw the right hand, which is the southpaw killer, which is dubbed the southpaw killer. Does this all the time. With Manny, it'd be that much easier. You fight Manny as a southpaw for about 6-7 rounds. You switch off to orthodox in the 8th. You start teeing off with the right hand, which is hard for Manny to defend, as he was knocked out by it before.
Okay, so Crawford's strengths, Manny weaknesses. What's Crawford's weaknesses, Manny's strengths?
Crawford's weaknesses are mid-range to inside. When he gets hit, he tends to hit back, and that's Manny's best chance at getting him. Mid-range to inside in the pocket in the heat of the exchange. However,
so how does Manny get the exchanges to initiate? What's his strengths to do that?
Oh, well, that's just it. I don't think Manny can do that, which is why I think it's going to be an easier fight for Crawford than it looks. I can't see how Manny's going to have his way. I can't see that. With an orthodox fighter like Keith Thurman, who doesn't even employ very much of a jab, when Manny's jabbing, you got a good way to get in there. You got a good way to get next to that guy, which is why he scored that knockdown. He tripled up on the jab and caught Keith with a hook. Why? Keith Thurman's not a jabber. How are you going to keep him off if you're not shooting the jab? And you don't have the reflexes to do some Roy Jones shit and fire lead hooks. You just don't have the reflexes for that. Why? You look like doodle against Josecito Lopez. And before that, you were inactive for 2 years and injury prone. Simple stuff.
All right. I'm going to drop off because other people want me to drop off so others can join the panel.
Okay, I'll see you, Mark. Hustle, what's going on? Hustle fell asleep. Let's go to John Dealey.
Hi, Julia. How you doing?
What's rocking, man?
Yeah, all good here. You sound happy.
Oh yeah, it's just some boxing talk. I'm fairly confident, anecdotally, of course, because this is boxing, and we always have to draw a fine line between everything. But I'm fairly confident that Crawford beats Manny. Fairly confident.
Well, that's where I sit. I think the reach advantage and the jabbing ability that Crawford has over Manny is going to be enough, because it was enough for Floyd.
Yep.
Crawford's got a 2-inch reach advantage on Floyd.
I think Manny's only real chance is what I just said. I've said it 2 to 3 times already. His only chance is to catch Crawford in the heat of the exchange in the pocket, but he has to get there, and getting there is the problem.
But when have we actually seen Manny put anyone down lately?
No, that's the other. No, fair. Well, Keith Thurman, he did. He put down.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But but we know that
if we're going to deal with, if we're all comfortable with anecdotes, I feel there's a lot more dog in Terence Crawford than there is in Keith Thurman.
Oh yes. But see, this is the thing. I don't use Keith Thurman as a parallel for Terence Crawford because their implementation is entirely different. So that's
no. But if we're just going to talk about getting caught in the pocket when you exchange it, yeah, Crawford's not invincible. We've seen him get hurt.
Yeah,
when he gets hurt,
I regularly see him, when he's mid-range to inside. A sensational boxer. I fucking love the guy. But if the guy does get touched up here and there, usually it's in the pocket. Usually. That's when it happens. So for a shorter fighter like Manny, who's at a reach disadvantage, a height disadvantage, that's his best bet to land some punches. In the pocket, in the heat of the exchange. The problem is, how the fuck is he going to get there? How's he going to get there?
Well, I don't think he might get there, but that's probably going to be through a significant error on Crawford's part.
It would have to be.
And if Crawford comes off worse from that, I'm not sure Manny can do enough
to put him
away.
Yeah.
And I doubt Terence would let him do it again because he just doesn't need to.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's It's a few things. You know, one, Crawford can take a shot. Crawford can take a shot. I
What
haven't
we
seen.
saw that I can't say Mean Machine's proper name, but we like whatever limitations he has, he can punch.
Yeah,
Mean Machine can punch.
yeah.
He's got hurtful punches,
And he's a solid welterweight. He's, you know, a lot of people.
he's not a small welterweight.
He's not by any stretch of the imagination. He's a bigger, fuller guy than Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman. But they, you know, you really can't tell this stuff unless they're standing next to each other. That like a guy like Kavaliauskas, this kid, Virgil Ortiz, Boots. These are big welterweights. You know that they're actually bigger than a lot of those PBC guys. To be completely honest,
a lot of the welterweights in the last generation have started at lower weights and moved up to welterweight. And the guys you're talking about they're more or less either started at 140 or 147. So they're not the sort of midgets we've seen inhabiting the welterweight division of late.
Yeah, and we talked about this before, that this generation, just this generation of welterweights, it's a smaller generation than some of the generation of welterweights we've seen before. These ain't guys that are the size.
That's because of where they started off, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah. But they're naturally smaller guys.
So basically we've got a generation that have moved up to welterweight, whereas in the past we've frequently had generations that started at welterweight and moved up to middleweight.
I wouldn't say frequently, because this seems to be like procession. This seems to cycle. You know, you'll have
that's why I said cycles. So it doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
But you'll get a cycle where someone, you get some big welterweights, and it's because they're not going to stay there. And then you get a cycle of smaller welterweights who were at much lower weights and moved up to welterweight, and that is what you call a ceiling. They cannot fight at a higher weight class than that.
Yeah, because even though it's an anecdote, now we have to say anecdote all the time. Even though it's an anecdote, I don't give any kind of odds to a Keith Thurman or a Danny Garcia to win a title from someone at 154.
I don't see Kell Brook doing it.
It depends. If let's say, and this is completely hypothetical, if Liam Smith was still the WBO champion, I'd give him a chance. Because he
well, fair enough. But that ship sailed, though, Julius.
Yeah, it did.
So like, if we went back through history and looked at some of the smaller guys on 154, then maybe. But the current crop, they're in a similar situation. A lot of those guys can move up. We've got a crop of very big 154 pounders at the moment.
Yeah, we do. And these are guys that could easily go to super middleweight.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, if you're 6'4", you can probably go to super middleweight unless you've got no chin or, you've really lacking in the power department.
Well, even with Danny's chin, because Danny's got a chin, I think we can say that. The kid takes a good punch. He's fought some of the decent-sized punches in the division. He's supposed to be fighting another. Even with that chin that he has at 147, at 154, forget it, dog. Yeah, maybe you got a chin, but that's all you got.
But I mean, he's not a big welterweight, though, is he?
No, he's not. That's the funniest fucking thing.
For me, welterweight's his ceiling. He's better at 140.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
So, size does count. It's why we have weight classes. And that's the overwhelming reason why I'd pick Crawford over Manny in this fight. I think Manny deserves a lot of credit for beating Keith Thurman, irrespective of the condition that Keith was in, because Manny was 40.
Well, that's why I rank him. Because
look, I'm not saying you don't. I'm not saying you don't. I think a lot of the Pacquiao fans have got a bit upset because you've shown the flaws of Keith Thurman, which have all been fair. I agree with them. I don't think Keith Thurman wants to fight anymore. You don't spend that amount of time away from the ring if you really want to fight.
Yeah.
The injuries, that's probably part and parcel of why he doesn't really want to fight. It just doesn't look hungry. And then you compare that to Terence Crawford, who for me is all dog. Like, in some ways, it's a shortcoming because he likes to get in the heat of battle. He likes to get touched up and fight back. And that isn't necessarily the smartest thing for a boxer to do. But it makes him fun to watch.
Yeah, I'll say, it's Well, it's not an anecdote that Terrence Crawford spends his downtime differently than those guys do. It's not really an anecdote. It's a fact. Every time this guy doesn't have a fight, what I see him doing is helping the the other fighters.
He's always in shape.
Yeah.
He's always in shape. And like for me, right, I'm 44 years old. I'm 168 pounds. I was 168 pounds when I was 20 years old. There's no excuse for a professional athlete to not maintain that sort of thing. It's their job. It's what they get paid for.
Yeah. And
So
this is a regular occurrence with.
You only see it in boxing. If you were, I know it's not a sport you're probably particularly aware of, but if a Premiership footballer's body fat goes over a certain amount, they'll just get fined.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how it should be. But they play every week, so they don't have these long gaps. And inactivity is a fighter's biggest enemy. And that's why Crawford's got an edge, because when he is inactive, he's sparring. He's training with the other guys. It keeps him sharp.
Yeah, and I think the same is true. Because it's not like it's just Crawford, though. He does seem to do it quite a bit. It's not just him. It's really the whole top.
Floyd did it. When did we ever see Floyd get out of shape?
Exactly.
Right. You know, you just never, ever, ever saw it. Andre Ward, one of my least favorite fighters in the ring, but I have to respect him because he respected the craft. He was always ticking over, and he had huge layoffs.
Yeah, so when I see Keith Thurman, when I saw Keith Thurman, right, before the Pacquiao fight, before the Lopez fight, right, he was real fucking fat, standing next to some guy. He was real fucking fat, like he had a pot belly. And I'm thinking, yo, how is this guy supposed to be mounting a comeback when this is the condition you're in? And you could say, oh, well, he injured his hand. Okay, you injured your hand. So there's certain things that you can't do as far as your preparation. But that's not the green light for you to fucking balloon in weight. There's still other things that you can do so that at least...
All you would need to do to not balloon in weight is keep your diet in check.
Yeah.
That's all he would need to do.
Or some road work.
Well, once you get to a certain age, I don't think you can out-train a bad diet. So your diet should be in check. These guys have got enough money to pay a nutritionist to cook them food that they like, so they want to eat it. That'll stop them putting weight on. There's just no excuse.
Yeah, really, it isn't. Especially when you get $10 million paydays. There's just no excuse.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, yeah, they do need to keep ticking over. They do need to maintain their cardiovascular system. But you can shadow box with an injured hand. Yeah. I mean, what's better than shadow boxing anyway? To like stay on top of your skills, learn new stuff. There's not enough shadow boxing going on, full stop, anyway, for me.
No, honestly, yeah, that's another thing. I got to give that to Ward, though. One of the most entertaining shadow boxers. You could almost see what the fuck it is he's thinking. Entertaining shadow boxing.
Look, I don't like his style of fighting.
I know, John.
But that kind of helps me give him credit, because Ward's not gifted athletically or with dimensions or anything. He's not gifted with power. Nope. And yet he was still able to be the supreme 168 pound and 175 pounder in his generation, without all the odds against him. And the reason I have a lot of time for him is because it was all through sheer hard work.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say, that what Andre Ward reminds me of, I'm sure you've seen Troy, with Brad Pitt, Eric Bana. What Andre Ward reminds me of is Hector. You don't have the God-given abilities of Achilles, but you have the work ethic of a Hector. So you're in that conversation. You don't have God-given power or God-given reflexes or mobility or agility. You don't have all that flashy stuff.
He doesn't even have a good reach.
No,
he's got a bum hand on everything for being a boxer, yet he was the best in 2 weight classes. That's why I've got time for him.
Yeah.
And the Hector Achilles analogy is like a really good one.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what when I think of Ward, I think this is Hector. This is the modern day incarnation of Hector. You have the work ethic. You don't have the God-given ability, but you have the work ethic. And a lot of times, that's the fucking difference.
Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work.
Yeah.
Fact. That is a fact.
That is a fact. No, it is. You're absolutely right. It is. Like, talent will only get you so far. At some point, you got to buckle down and work.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, it's an ugly style that Ward employed, but he had to employ that style because of his limitations. But I'll give him all the credit in the world. Probably never watch any of his fights back, but I'll give him all the credit just because he put the work in.
Yeah.
And Furman, if you let yourself get fat like that, I mean, some of the fighters I like do it, and I will put them to the sword for it. Dillian White is never in shape.
Never.
I mean, forget his last fight against Vark, where he was so out of shape it's untrue. When he's supposedly in shape, he's still overweight for me. And I don't care about heavyweights. Look at the old heavyweights. Look at Cleveland Williams. Did you ever see Cleveland Williams out of shape? Ever?
No.
Ever?
No.
So there's no excuse. Like all this, Ken Norton used to drop 20 pounds in fight camp because he worked so hard.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't the best thing. Maybe that's why.
Well, that's what made Adam Kovnowski's his excuse.
Yeah, well,
dog. Like, you're out of shape. You're a fucking heavyweight, dog.
What did anyone ever was going to think was going to happen with that guy? He struggled with Charles Martin. He's a come forward, chin up fighter who can't really put people away that quickly. He was a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, for me, it was obvious. It was all over.
But it's just how ridiculous it is to hear a heavyweight say, because, all right, there was no COVID, right? There was no fucking COVID. There's no pandemic. There's no rioting. There's no looting. There's nothing going on. This is way months before. You're supposed to be on top of your game to where if you get that phone call, you don't have to get ready. You are ready. This guy, I was out of shape. What do you mean, dog? Like, what the fuck were you doing?
Well, here's a perfect parallel. Andy Ruiz was in shape enough to get in there, and he won the sweepstakes. He won the lottery. So what are you talking about? If that's your physique and that's a physique you're going to fight at, and you've got a good enough cardiovascular system to get through 12 rounds of boxing, looking like that, that's fine. You should be in shape to go. It isn't a bodybuilding contest.
It's not. It really.
Not everybody has to look body beautiful. That's not the issue. But you're a professional athlete, and there was enough time for Andy Ruiz to get in there. And Andrew Ruiz is a lot richer than Kawanaki is ever going to be.
Yeah. I mean, that's fucked up that you could have turned down that kind of payday, right? So you could go
the only thing that I would say to count, as a counter argument is it may have been that he just wasn't allowed to fight him because Heyman said no.
Well, no, I mean, that's what I honestly think it is, because the story changed. The story changed. When they first rejected that fight, that wasn't what they said. Adam didn't come out and say I wasn't in shape. He didn't say that until afterwards. What they said initially was that they already had a plan for him to fight on a card against an opponent that had yet to be announced. So I'm like, hold on. So you're turning down a multi-million-dollar payday, a title fight for 3 world titles to fight somebody that you don't even know who they're going to be yet? On what channel, bro? Fox? FS1? Like, what the fuck?
This is what I was saying to you. I think Heyman's... I'd love to actually see one of Heyman's legit contracts, because he's forcing his fighters to repeatedly turn down career high paydays.
Yeah. And that's the reason that the Ali Act is actually in place, that no manager or promoter should have that full kind of hegemonical power over a fighter's earning potential. You're stifling his earning potential, not for his best interests, but for yours, and what relationships you have to a network that didn't even make a commitment to that fighter. Fox don't have an exclusivity deal for Adam Kovnowski. Neither does Showtime. So why are you stopping that man from getting money? I know why. Because you promised them your premier boxing champions wouldn't go anywhere, even if it comes at a great cost to them.
Well, I'm not sure whether Heyman's promised Fox that his fighters won't go elsewhere. What I am sure of is that Heyman worries that he may not be able to fulfill his commitments to Fox and leave himself in a bad position if he squanders his stable elsewhere and they get beat. So he's protecting their unbeaten records so that he can ensure that when he wants to build up a fight on his platform, he can do so.
I think that's essentially the same thing, because that's
yeah.
what
I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah, we're not arguing. We're not arguing.
No,
We're
no.
not arguing.
But
I
understand semantics, and that's fine. I mean,
that's the point. That's essentially the point that I'm alluding to. That you can't have Adam go over there and get his ass kicked at ESPN, then bring him back over to Fox or something, and then we're gonna build him up. No, you can't build him up.
And look at Adam. Adam's probably all this talk that Adam Karnacki beats Wilder. That's nonsense.
Yeah, that was insane.
That's not just right. Wilder.
That's insane.
Do you mind me naming other channels on your lives?
Oh, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Okay, so True School Sports interviewed Stacey McKinley. I think 2017. Do you know Stacey McKinley?
Yeah, I know Stacey McKinley. He's on the show regularly.
So that interview, Stacey breaks down how to beat Deontay Wilder, and he says, "Step 2 is power. Put him on the back foot, because that's how you deal with it." He said that in 2017. And that's always been the obvious way to beat Wilder. He can't land if he doesn't land his left hand. He needs that measuring stick, because despite people saying that Wilder has no skills, he has one skill, and he is accurate at landing a right hand that he puts everything in the kitchen sink. So if you take away that left hand, so he can't land the right hand, and you get inside him, he has no defense. There's nothing he can do. And not on the inside. And that's what Fury did. And Stacey McKinney said to do that in 2017. So
that's the funny thing, that up until it happens, no attention is given to it, because Stacey said it in 2017. Joshua said something similar in I think it was 2019. It was either 2019.
I actually swapped my pick as soon as Tyson Fury went to Sugar Hill, because Stacey McKinney is also a Detroit guy, and the style that Deontay uses, and I don't want to insult Detroit, but Mark Breland's like a Detroit style fighter. The right hand, the 1-2 that he has, it comes from Detroit as far as I'm concerned, and they know how to beat that. So when Tyson went to Sugar Hill, I'm on air on a different platform saying that I've got Fury by knockout. And it was purely based on the fact that Tyson knows how to box. Yep. Tyson is, whatever else you may think of him, he's a clever guy.
Yeah.
And he's gone there for a reason. And he showed what the reason was. Yeah. Kaunaki hasn't got the ability to do that.
Well, Kovnowski's a funny fucking thing, man, because I was sized to see Adam fight Ruiz. I don't know if what we're looking at is regression, that, he was a solid guy and then he just picked up some bad habits. Is it that, or is it that he was never really that good to begin with, and this was just waiting to happen? It's because it could be one or the other.
I think it's a mixture of both. So I think he's nowhere near as good as he was built to be.
Because for what it's worth, he beat Martin. And I think the first flag that something's wrong was the Areola fight. You shouldn't have to work that fucking hard to beat Chris Areola, not if you're, what you're supposed to be.
I thought the Martin fight was actually a flag. Because
all right.
I'll tell you why. Because Martin won the second half of the fight. If Martin had come out a bit quicker, because I think Charles has got all right stamina. I don't think there's anything wrong with his gas tank. If he'd have come out a bit sooner, he would have. He only needed a couple of extra rounds, and he would have won that fight. If you watch it back, Charles wins the second half of the fight.
I gotta see it again. I gotta see.
Yeah, watch it. Like it's not a clean sweep for Adam at all. And so that, for me, that was a flag, because Joshua put him away with 2 punches, essentially.
Yeah, he did.
He just timed him on the counter straight hand. That's all he did, and he put him down both times.
Beautifully placed right hand, by the way, though. Right in there, right in the sweet spot.
People are sleeping on Joshua's straight right. They really are. They're sleeping on AJ so much. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Trust me. And you'll know this. They slept on Lennox after the Rock. Well, after right.
That's, do you know what my biggest regret in boxing is? It's not betting money that Lennox was going to lose the first Rockman fight. Because in the British media, it was all over the media that he hadn't trained and he hadn't acclimatized to the altitude that the fight was at. And that's why he got banged out. So if he'd have not been complacent and he took it seriously, that never would have happened. Now that's Lennox's fault.
I'll say that the level of disregard that Joshua's getting feels eerily similar. I don't know, because I'm not a fucking fortune teller. All I could tell you is that, yeah, this feels familiar because this is what they did to Lennox after the McCall fight. This is what they did to Lennox after the Rockman fight. As soon as he lost, he ain't shit. He wasn't up shit. This feels eerily. Yeah. He lost one fight against Andy Ruiz. I get it. Motherfuckers lose fights. Andy surprised them, beat the shit out of him. But he outboxed him in the second fight. He outboxed him.
Yeah. Also, you gotta give AJ his credit. He's been on air twice, owning that beating that he took.
Yeah,
he owned it. He's not shied away from it on any.
Well, that was. I swear to God. I swear to fucking God. The next day, I believe it was a Sunday morning. Joshua had that interview, sitting in that chair next to them bricks. And as soon as I saw that he didn't make no complaints, he didn't say shit. Look, I lost the fucking fight, and I'm gonna win the second one. I was confident off of that. Look, that's how you handle a loss. I lost, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to win. That's how you handle that. You don't say shit. You don't cry. You don't bitch. You don't moan. If something costed you the fight, you know what it is, and that's enough for you. You don't need to make excuses. The act of making excuses makes me doubt your chances.
In the olden days, I used to want to see a fighter take a loss to see how he'd come back from it.
Yep.
They didn't want to see him blow everybody over and just maintain his aim. True test of adversity is actually coming back from it. Yeah. And also all this idea about Joshua's got no chin. I want someone to find me an all-time heavyweight great who's never touched canvas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's. I'm gonna say this. There's guys, there's guys like David Price, right? That, all right, their chins are actually very questionable. But bear in mind, we are talking about heavyweights. I remember they used to say, believe it or not, here in the States, there were people saying Lennox didn't have a chin. They said he had a glass jaw. They said that.
People still say it now.
There was people saying that about Vladimir after the Saunders fight. They were saying that, this guy's got a glass jaw. And it's excruciating to have to explain, listen, dog, this is the heavyweight division. Anybody lands clean, they have a chance of knocking. These ain't welterweights.
Exactly, but I think that's the big problem. It's like, what's everybody been watching for the last 10 years? Which division?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember. It's like, dog. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, dog. Anybody would have got hit the way some guys got hit by certain punches. They would have went fucking down. Why? Because these ain't welterweights. These ain't middleweights. These are not light heavyweights. These are heavyweights, bro.
There has never been a heavyweight in the history of the division that could walk through punches like Antonio Margarito could.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
it's tight because it's not possible at heavyweight.
Well, they're gonna say Marciano. They're gonna say Marciano, but
Marciano went down from Archie Moore, so let's just get rid of that now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Archie Moore's a career like heavyweights. Let's just forget that one from the get go. Also, who's the biggest puncher that Marciano ever fought?
That's the other thing. You could say Joe Louis, but Joe Louis, I don't know.
Right, if anyone wants to talk about Joe, that's just ludicrous.
Yeah, it's tenuous because Joe was.
I can't give Rocky any credit for that win at all.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough.
Joe's only in the ring because of the amount of money he owes to the IRS.
Yeah,
but he wouldn't be there. He would have retired when he defeated Jersey Joe.
Joe looked. I'm not saying that he was. I think Joe was in his 30s when he fought Rocky. But
he was in his 30s, but Joe wasn't in a good 30s.
Yeah,
I remember the amount of
Joe looked like he was 45 years old. Like
and also look at the wear and tear on him. Like he started his career really early. How old was he when he won the title? He was like 22,
something like that. Not 20. Not 20, I don't think.
And like, well, he's got to have been older than Floyd, wasn't he? So Floyd Patterson. So he was around 22.
But it's fucking wild, man. It's fucking wild.
And he had a lot of fights. A lot of fights. So Joe was way past his prime, in my opinion. If people want to give Rocky Marciano credit for that, that's fine. That's their business. Yeah. But I'm not trying to take anything away from Rocky. I'm just not giving him credit.
No. Yeah, I mean, my view, the only stance I could take when it comes to Rocky and Joe Louis is I treat it like a passing of the torch fight. That's how I treat it. That I'm not going to disparage him. I'm not going to disparage him, but I'm not going to exalt him for it either. Like, this obviously ain't the Joe Louis of, that was in his prime. That's not the Joe Louis that you fought. And I'm not going to hold it against you because a lot of people have those kinds of fights. They're going to keep having those kinds of fights.
There's nothing wrong with a passing of the torch fight. And if you want to look at it like that, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, because that's how I look at it.
Like, I'm assuming you know who's in that avatar there that I'm using. Who the little guy is in the avatar.
Yeah, I see him right there. His sparring, it's insane that those sparring partners, dog. It's insane.
That's when people talk to me about Joe not fighting big heavyweights. It's just like, just go and look back, will you?
It's fucking insane that those was his sparring partners, dog.
Well, yeah, so like, Joe could hang with anyone, in my opinion, at any point. But he might not have always won, but he definitely could have.
Yeah, he could have hang. He could hang there.
He could have hang there.
He could hang.
Because look at who's sparring, so come back to me when you've had done your research. But yeah, I'm biased, so I'll admit my bias towards Joe. I'm comfortable with that.
I'll say, well, before I get off, because I got to get dressed, go to work. Before I get off, all I'm saying, right? Because we kind of went to the heavyweight division. We were supposed to be talking about the little guys.
We did cover it though. I mean,
we did talk about it. I just don't see what is supposed to make me put my money on Manny. Beating Lucas Matthysse doesn't convince me.
I haven't trusted him since the first round of the Maypac, because what I saw in that, as soon as I watched that round, I knew that Floyd was going to canter to an easy point, this win. And in my opinion, that's what happened. And we've got someone in Crawford with a bigger reach who's got a good jab. And I don't see the same dogging money that was there before Marquez cleaned his club.
Yeah.
That's just what I see.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop him being a great fighter. Doesn't need people to get all emotional about it. No one's out there peak forever, and money is way past his.
Yeah. Which was the reason that I brought up the angling. I'm not saying that those weren't solid victories, and that those victories won't age well. It's not about that. We're talking about as a gambling man.
You can do the reverse with it. You can say, well, man is way past his best, and he's still managing to put away Keith Thurman several years.
Yeah, and that's how most of the time when I think of the Thurman fight, aside from the condition of Thurman, which is, and I said this leading up to the fight, this is what makes the fight intriguing, is Thurman gonna be able to old man Manny, or is Thurman fucked up enough, is his condition fucked up enough that Manny could unseat him? That's genuinely intriguing. That's why I said the fight is a great fight, just for all the wrong reasons, because neither of these two guys are at their best. Neither of these two guys are at their very best right now. Manny's fucking old, and Thurman's missed the glass.
If Crawford or Spence had fought Thurman at the point that Manny had fought him, I wouldn't be giving either of those two guys any credit for beating Thurman. I will give Manny credit for beating him simply because of where he is in his career.
He's a fucking old man. So, gentlemen, always a pleasure. I'm sorry I couldn't get to everybody. I'll try again tomorrow. Go ahead, John.
No, thanks for having me on. I was just going to jump off so you could say goodbye to everyone.
All right, everybody. I'll try again tomorrow to get everybody on. This conversation is not over. Terrence Crawford, when I see their happy faces smiling back at me. Terrence Crawford. All right, everybody, go to sleep. Or I don't know.